Welcome to my podcast where we discuss various topics related to Quebec and Canadian real estate. In today's episode number 10, we're going to talk about the FHSA, which is short for First Home Savings Account. So what is the FHSA? It's a federal program that was introduced in April of 2023. I'm recording this video in January of 2024, so it's a fairly recent program, unlike the HBP program, which we spoke about in a previous episode that's been available to Canadian for many years. So it's an account, basically, and you're allowed to invest up to $8,000 per year into this account. You get a tax credit. There's a total of $40,000 cap for the life cycle of the account, so you can't exceed that amount to use it as a down payment. And the purpose of it is to help you purchase your first home. Any unused contribution similar to an RRSP gets carried over to the following year. So let's just say you only invested for this year $6,000. You still have a cap of $2,000. That gets added to your cap of the next year. So instead of having just $8,000 the following year, you'll have $10,000. Exactly the same as an RRSP. And similar to the HBP program, you can use the fund to buy an existing home or build a new home, as long as you have, similar to the HBP, you have a written contract with the builder within 12 months of withdrawing the funds. Now, let's talk about who's eligible for the program. So it is for first-time home buyer, and the way the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency, defines a first-time home buyer is anybody that have not owned the home that they live in for the last 4 years before adhering to the program. And that's whether it's you, your spouse, or common law partner, either you fully owned or jointly owned, it doesn't matter. So as long as you don't have none of that in the last 4 years, you're considered first-time home buyer and you can adhere to the program. You have to be between the age of 18 and 71 to qualify, and also obviously you have to be a Canadian resident. The other thing that's important to consider, you have to qualify when you first open the account, and then you're going to have to qualify when you go to do the withdrawal. So let's just say you open the account this year, you're going to qualify with the criteria I just explained. And if you're planning on using the fund, I don't know, in 7 years or 5 years, right before you do the withdrawal, you're going to have to qualify again. So that means you have to be considered a first-time home buyer, as I explained a few seconds ago, and all the other criteria as well. So something to keep in mind before you open the program. How do you open the account is very simple. So you contact your bank, credit union, trust, or insurance company who offers the FHSA. You're going to follow their instructions. So typically they'll ask you for a bunch of information, social insurance, date of birth, and any relevant document to prove that you meet all the criteria that's been established by the government. There's 3 types of FHSA. I'm not going to get into them in this episode. Your bank or whatever financial institution you're doing business with will be able to guide you on which of the 3 account is better suited for your needs. Lastly, the first year that you're going to open the account, you will have, even if you don't invest any funds in it, you will have to report it on your tax file so that the CRA is made aware that you've opened an FHSA account. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the withdrawal. Okay, so there's a total of 5 different type of withdrawal, meaning we're removing funds from the FHSA account. The first one, which is the main one and the reason why you probably opened the account in the first place, is to buy your first property. And as I mentioned when we talked about who qualifies for the program, at the time of the withdrawal, you need to qualify again. So meaning you haven't owned a property in the last 4 years, except that within the last 30 days prior to doing the withdrawal. There's an exception there because they're factoring in that you're in the process of buying a property. Everything else, Canadian resident between the age of 18 and 71, all these criteria will apply to you at the time when you do the withdrawal. So that's what they refer to as a qualifying withdrawal, and so if you do qualify, you fill up a form which is called the RC725, and there's a portion that you're going to fill up, and then the other portion you're going to send the form to your account issuer, and they're going to complete the rest and do the transfer into your account, similar to the HPP program that we spoke about in a previous episode. The second type of withdrawal is called designated withdrawal. And you use that type of withdrawal whenever you invested more than what you're entitled to. So at the beginning of the episode, I mentioned there's a cap of $8,000. If you exceed the cap, so let's just say you invested $9,000, there's $1,000 that you exceeded in, and the government will charge you a 1% penalty per month, as long as that extra amount is in your account. So you're going to have to basically withdraw it in order to avoid paying that penalty. And the way you do that would be to follow the designated withdrawal process. So it's important that you really track how much money you're investing, because you're not going to get like some kind of notification that says, hey, you still have $500 to invest or anything like that. So just keep track of it, because 1% can add up. The third type of withdrawal, and the least attractive of them all, is it gets added basically. It's a taxable withdrawal. So whatever amount you withdraw from your account gets added to your income, and then you get taxes. So if you withdraw $5,000, the $5,000 gets added to your income, and you pay taxes on it, because any contribution that you make, similar to the RRSP, you get tax credit when you're putting funds into the FHSA. So if you're doing withdrawal and you're not doing it to buy a first time, you're not using the funds to buy a property, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So something to keep in mind. Also, probably when you first invested the funds, let's just say you were making $50,000 at the time when you invested the funds, you were taxed a certain amount at that salary. And by the time, let's just say fast forward 5 years from now, you're withdrawing it and you no longer qualify as a first-time home buyer. So whatever withdrawal that you're doing is going to get added to your income. And let's just say your income now is $70,000. Well, that $5,000 is going to cost you more in taxes than whatever credit you got at the time when you invested it. So something important to keep in mind, and have that conversation with your accountant before you make any transaction like that. Instead, what you might want to do, if you cannot use the fund in order to buy a property, you can transfer it into your RRSP. So that's the fourth type of withdrawal. It's more of a transfer than a withdrawal. So you can transfer the funds out of your FHSA into your RRSP or your PRF if you have one. And like that, you avoid any tax or any kind of other penalties that may be applicable to you. The last type of withdrawal, the fifth one, is a transfer from one FHSA to another one. So you're allowed to have more than one FHSA account, but the cap still applies to your total account. So whether you have one or two, it's still an $8,000 cap, or whatever cap may be applied in the future by the government. So that concludes today's episode on the FHSA. I hope the information was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.